Hey guys, it's Marina with Artworthy Life, where I teach Christ-centered art journaling that gets you into God's Word every day. And thank you guys so much for being patient as I had some technical delays and was not able to get on right off the bat. But I'm so glad you're with me now. If you are, please leave a comment so I can see that you're watching. Also, please let me know if the audio is okay. I have a little bit of technical glitches this morning, so I want to make sure that you guys can see and hear me okay. I also want to make sure that you guys know I posted a tracer on the page. So there is a tracer for the doodle that we're doing today, because this is our day one of our Doodle-a-Day for October, and I'm so thrilled that you're here to watch it. Let me see if I can see any comments coming through. Hi, Bonnie, welcome. I'm so glad you're on. Let me know, Bonnie, if you went ahead and grabbed your tracer. There's a tracer on Artworthy Life. Looks just like this. You can download the picture and then print it out to whatever size you want. So just copy paste that into whatever you have on your computer that will let you print pictures. But it was posted earlier this morning, and so just watch for that and you should be able to download that tracer. So thank you guys so much for being patient. I was going to be on right at 10:30 and just had some delays, but I'm so glad you're here. Leslie Ann got hers printed. Woohoo! I'm so glad. Okay, so go ahead and grab your watercolor supplies. This is going to be a super fast demo, but it's a Doodle-a-Day, and like I said, we're going to do this every day of this month. I'm so excited for this. You have no idea. I love a Doodle-a-Day. It was so fun last year, and I'm really glad to get back into it. So today we're doing a set of acorns. I've had a lot of you guys send me ideas. If you think of any other ideas for doodles, go ahead and put them in the comments. I read those, and I definitely will consider them if it's something that we can maybe do. The only day we won't be having a Doodle-a-Day is on Sundays, but there will still be a doodle tracer posted, and hopefully either a picture or video so that you can at least get an idea of how we're going to paint those in. Okay, grab your watercolors or whatever colored pencils, crayons, markers, whatever you want to use. You could use a pen and paper. It doesn't matter. You can grab your art journal if you'd rather do that. For those of you that are into art journaling, go ahead and grab your supplies. And as always, I like to start with some scripture, as you guys know. So since we're doing this as a series, I thought I would read a larger section of scripture for you guys, and that is, I'm going to read the Sermon on the Mount. I'm hoping to read through the whole thing this month. I think it'll be really, really fun. So if you don't know where the Sermon on the Mount is, it's in Matthew chapters 5 through 7. So we're going to read a small portion of that today, and then we'll get right into it. So starting in verse 1 of chapter 5, here's what it says. And seeing the multitudes, he, being Jesus, went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. And there's more where that comes from, but I'm going to stop right there because I want to read some more later on. I love the Beatitudes. That's what that is right there. And I am so glad we get to read through those. I'm looking forward to reading through all of the Sermon on the Mount this month. All righty, let's get into this. So if you're not already familiar with tracers, I'm a big proponent of tracers. I love tracers. So actually, tracers are basically images that are already that you already have on hand that you can trace onto your paper, and then you can kind of color them in like a coloring book. Now, it's a little more involved than that. Obviously, we're not just coloring in a coloring book, but tracers are amazing because they save you that step of having to freehand, but you are still learning. So don't think that if you're using a tracer that you're not really doing art, because you're still doing shading. You're actually learning the shapes of things. So think about it. When you color in a coloring page, you may be coloring in a picture of a building, but while you're coloring that in, you're learning the structure and the shape of a building. So actually, you are learning to draw while using a tracer. In fact, while you trace the tracer, you're still learning to draw. So this is a learning process. And let me tell you something even cooler. I was doing some research on well-known artists, Leonardo da Vinci, and a lot of those really famous artists that paint on, things that we still look at today. And many of them were known for using the equivalent of a tracer. Either they would draw something freehand and make their own tracer, which is actually what I'm doing for these tracers this month. I'm drawing my own image and then creating tracers for you guys. But they were also known for using other people's art. So they have done research, and they have found that there were many artists who copied each other's work. Because unlike today, when we are basically told that if you copy someone's work, that's plagiarism, which it is, back then, if you copied someone's work, it was actually kind of a compliment. Like, I like it so much, I'm going to use the idea. And thankfully, here at Artworthy Life, that's how I feel about it. As long as you're not selling it to make a profit, you're more than welcome to use the ideas. I think it's a huge compliment when you guys want to use any of the art and ideas that we have here. As long as you share it, give us credit, and don't use it to sell. And that's what they used to do. So they would, there have been people who have researched and taken photos of different sections of large, well-known and lesser-known paintings, and they can tell that the body shape or the pose that a person was in matches the exact pose of another artist. It's very, very interesting. So feel free to look that stuff up. But I say all that to say, these are mainstream, really famous, really well-known artists that we would say they are legit artists. And even they used tracers and used other people's ideas. So don't feel bad when you're using a when you're using a reference photo, meaning you're looking at a picture instead of doing it from memory. Don't feel bad when you're using a tracer, and don't feel bad when you're using other people's ideas. As long as you're giving them credit and you're not selling something that you shouldn't be selling, you know, it's great. That is how you learn. We learn by imitation. All right, there's my little preach for this morning. I hope you guys hang tight through that. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm so excited. So the reason I said all that was to tell you this is a tracer, and I'm going to show you how to use it. So those of you that have never used a tracer before, you'll print it out, size it. I'm not sure what kind of programs you guys have on your computers or phone or whatever. You can also do this on your computer screen, by the way. You can just take your paper and set it over whatever your device's screen is, whether it's your computer or laptop or whatever, and you can let the light shine through and trace the tracer. But otherwise, you can print it out. And then once you have it and you have your piece of watercolor paper cut out, you're going to use something called graphite paper. So if you don't already have watercolor paper cut out, the size that I'm using is 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. Okay, Lydia Sherman is watching. Oh, welcome, Lydia. She's watching on YouTube. I'm so glad you're here. She's giving us some history. Michelangelo was the first known paint-by-number artist. Okay, I got to show this on the screen. Hang on just a minute. Oh, let's grab that. Okay, so she says Michelangelo was the first known paint-by-number artist who put numbers on canvas when he hired painters for big projects. What? Okay, so that's even cooler. By the way, Lydia Sherman has a wonderful YouTube page. If you guys have not seen her ministry that she does over there, you can see her photo here and her name. Look her up on YouTube. She's got a great page. And Lydia, if you want to drop the name of your blog as well, I believe it's a blog, I'd love to see that so that the other ladies can benefit from that. She's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that history. That's awesome. And for watching today. This is great. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to trace this. And like I said, the squares that we are using are 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So while I'm explaining how to use graphite paper, go ahead and grab your watercolor paper and cut it to size. If you don't have watercolor paper, you can use cardstock and whatever other colors you have, pencils or whatever you'd like to use. Alrighty, Lydia, I hope Lillian can jump on. I'm not sure if she's planning to watch today. Lillian is a super talented young lady, and she's been watching a lot of our stuff. Alrighty, so this is graphite paper. Some people call it carbon paper. And basically, it's an erasable ink on a piece of paper that you can use to trace. So when you buy it at the store, you can get it on Amazon in white or black, and you can also get it at like Hobby Lobby, other stores like that. Oh, okay. So, and Lydia just put the name of her blog in the comments. Oh, she says the numbers represented colors, just like a paint by number. That is so cool. I didn't know that. And the vlog is under the unique and imaginative title, Lydia Sherman. So just look that up on YouTube, and she's wonderful. Very soothing to listen to. So feel free to check her out. Okay, so what we'll do is you'll get this graphite paper, and one side of it is not pigmented, and the other side of it, let me just show you, it's like a full-size paper. The other side of it is pigmented. And so basically you'll know the side that's pigmented because it's, number one, it's darker. Number two, if you rub your thumb against it, your thumb will turn black. So that's the side that you want to be face down. So here's the layers. You put your paper that you're going to work on down first, face up, and then you take your graphite paper and you put that face down so that the pigmented side is face down. And then you take your tracer and you put that over top of it. And I love to explain this over and over again because I know there's people who haven't heard it. So if you've already heard this and you know this, you know, just go for it, do your tracer. But I want to explain that one more time because we're starting a new Doodle-a-Day program for those of you that are just getting on. It's not a program, it's a challenge, Doodle-a-Day challenge. And some of you guys haven't done a Doodle-a-Day or haven't used tracers before. So I just wanted to explain that one more time. Okay, so I'm going to kind of angle my tracer just a little bit, and then I just take a fine tip pencil. I like to use colored mechanical pencils because they are fine tip. You can also use just a pen or a stylus or anything like that. And then just trace. That's all you're going to do. Trace out the shapes. And this is what I mean by, even though we're tracing, you are actually learning. You're learning the shapes of different items and, you know, figuring out how curves are represented on a flat two-dimensional piece of paper, and you know how to translate a picture in your mind down onto paper. So even though we're using a tracer, we're still learning, and it's a great way to learn to doodle. You can kind of get the idea of what different shapes of things are, and I love to use tracers. Now here's the part where you pause. Lydia, she says, we used to call it carbon paper for carbon copies. Yes, and I'm not sure why there's a difference. Maybe somebody can research the difference. I've actually looked it up a couple of times and I can't quite put my finger on it. But I've heard graphite paper is the erasable kind, but I feel like carbon paper is maybe the same thing. So I'm not sure. Somebody tell me if you can look it up. Alrighty, I want to also make sure I've said hi to everybody again. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Bonnie and Leslie Ann. I'm so glad everybody's watching. Anyone who hasn't said hello yet, please go ahead and say hi. Tell me where you're watching from. Before I lift up this tracer, here's what I want to do. I want to take a peek. You don't want to move it. You just want to take a peek and make sure the image has transferred. So let me see if you guys can see that. Okay, so yeah. So I'm just taking a peek, and I know you can't really tell because it's bright right there. But I'm looking to see if it has transferred, and it has transferred onto the page. So now I'm going to lift up. If it had not, I would lay it back down. You can see by when I put my shadow on there. I know that's kind of bright for you guys, but that is what we're going for. We want it to trace down onto the page. Alrighty, so that's what we're going for. And what I want to do now is go ahead and get my watercolors out. So those of you that don't know, I'm going to go ahead and put some of my supplies up on the screen so you guys can see. And let me make sure I have all of those. Okay, so these are the basic supplies I'm using right here. And this Kuretake watercolor set is wonderful. You can get it online on Amazon, and it's by Mozart here. And then it has lots and lots of different colors, and just a wonderful array of variety of colors, and then even neons and metallics, which I used to not like metallics because they kind of had that weird like 80s look to them, but these are very pearlescent. They're gorgeous. They're gorgeous, gorgeous. So I love them. Then you want to have some kind of a watercolor palette. And like I said, if you're not doing watercolors, this is irrelevant. Just grab your pencils, grab your coloring markers, whatever. Okay, we're gonna, I'm taking a little longer today because I'm kind of getting you guys set up for the month, but the next days that we do this, we'll just get right into it. Just wanted to make sure you guys know how to do your tracer, what supplies you'll need. Also, by the way, I usually have 2 cups of water, one that's dirty, as you can tell already, and one that's clean. And that is to clean my brushes and then to always have clean water available. Okay, so now I'm just going to get my paint brushes out. Now I did put my Hobby Lobby Masters Touch watercolor set on there, but these are the ones I'm going to use primarily. And I actually have a slightly smaller brush as well, as you can tell. And this is not by Masters Touch, it's by Liquitex. And I got it secondhand, so I'm really not sure where to get it, and I absolutely love it. It's from another artist who I inherited the supplies. They gifted them to me, but it's a very fine tip. So it's nice to have a smaller tip like that, but you can also have your Master's Touch or whatever watercolor brushes you like to use. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. So grab your supplies. I'm gonna move this so it's out of our way. And what we're gonna do first is, oh, by the way, tell me, you guys, do you guys have acorns and oak trees in your area? Tell me if you're actually seeing the leaves start to change too, because we are not seeing our leaves change as fast as I expected. I don't know if it's because we had such a hot summer. I'm starting to see a little bit, but not as many as I expected. So tell me in the comments if you guys are actually seeing the leaves change, or if you're having like a delayed fall as well. I just felt like, I don't know, I felt like the fall was not quite here yet, and I'm not sure why that is. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna tell you the colors that we're using, and I like to use my bigger brush to pull paint over into the palette. So let me see, do I have my other one with me? Okay, so I'm just gonna use this bigger brush. It's the equivalent of the size 8 round. And I'm just going to pull the paint over in that with that paintbrush. And so we're going to use kind of a chestnut color, and we're going to start with the brown number 52 and pull that over into the palette like that. And I'm going to add some water to it as we go. Let me make sure you guys can see. Okay, so tell me if you guys can see my palette and where I'm mixing the colors. So you should be able to see here and here as well. Hopefully you can see both of those things. Let me look at the comments. Make sure I'm not missing anything. No leaf changes in Florida. Yes, Bonnie. So you have pine needles. You just have a lot of pine needles dropping, right? It's interesting. Oh, and palm trees, right? Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of crimson red to this color, and we're going to create kind of a chestnut color. And that's just sort of like a reddish brown. There's not exactly a chestnut color in this palette particularly, but I'm just kind of making it out of those two colors. All right, so what we're going to do now is water this down a ton, and I'm going to fill this in. Now, one thing I do before I start painting is I erase the darkest of these graphite lines so that it's a faint image, and that's because once you start painting, it kind of locks in that graphite and it's harder to erase. You can erase some of it at the end, but really those darkest lines are hard to erase. So I'm going to erase them now, and we're just going to use a watered down version of this color. And like I said, that is crimson number 17 and brown number 52. And we're going to paint this in with a little shine on it. So we're going to leave a shine on the side of these acorns as if the light is kind of coming from the top right. So paint in your acorn like so, but then leave a little shiny space. So we're going to leave like a little shine in the center, like a little oval in the center, kind of like this. Right there. Okay, and we're going to add quite a bit of layers to these acorns, so you don't have to make it absolutely perfect, but that's how we're going to go, kind of like that. I'm going to leave a little shine on this acorn as well. And can you guys see that well, or do I need to come in closer? Tell me if I should come in a little closer. It's always a battle between how much of the mixing of the colors you guys need to see and then how much of the picture itself you need to see. I am actually ending up painting with this round brush. So this is my larger Liquitex round brush. Here's the size it is. Sizes across brushes are so inconsistent that I have a hard time telling you guys sometimes the size. So I'm just going to hold it here, and whatever brush you have that's about that size will work well. Okay, so we're just putting a layer of that kind of chestnut color in, and then we're going to paint in a layer of a more yellow brown on the hat of the acorn. I don't know what to call it, but it looks like a little hat. So to do that, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. This is Brilliant Yellow number 3 to the tan that we already have. And I'm just going to paint this whole thing in because really there's not much shine on this, but I am still going to leave a tiny bit of white space, almost like I'm just bad at coloring stuff in. With small sketches like that, I really just like to have some white space. I don't like for things to be fully colored in. I think it just looks more charming when there's some irregularity and not quite perfect coloring in. So that's going to be a kind of our base coat for that. And did I hear from anybody whether that's too far away? Should I Go a little closer. Leslie Ann says a little closer. Alrighty, I'll go a little closer. Okay, so hang tight while I get that a little bit closer. Are you guys excited for a Doodle-a-Day? I want to hear how you guys are feeling about a Doodle-a-Day. Are you ready for this? I'm super excited. I feel like I get to party with you guys like every day this month. And a Doodle-a-Day is so fun. It's so fun. Okay, but you tell me. Okay, how are you going to tell me? Tell me by putting a leaf in the comments if you're excited for a Doodle-a-Day. Okay, or maybe tell me if you can find an acorn emoji. I'm not sure if you can. If you can find an acorn emoji, I'll be super impressed. Okay, so now, okay, how's that? Tell me if that's close enough. I think I can still give you a little bit of the where the colors are mixing and you guys can see on there. Tell me if that works for you. Okay, so I know it's a small image, so it's a little hard to see sometimes. So next we're going to add a little bit of green, and I'm going to use the olive green number 45, which I actually already have some of that in my palette here, but that's what I'm using, number 45, and I'm going to mix in just a tiny bit of peak green, I think is what I mixed in here. So it's kind of an olivey green that's been brightened up slightly, and we're going to color in the stem of this little piece, and I am going to switch to my smaller brush now. Make sure you have a watercolor cloth nearby to dry off your paintbrush and clean it as you go. I'm going to use my smaller liner brush, my number 2 liner brush, and just get a little bit of that green, and we'll come in here and paint the top of this little branch, leaving a little bit of white space, but not much, hardly at all. And then I'm going to come down into the top of those little hats. They have a little point at the top of them. And where that top is, I'm not going to paint it green. I'm going to paint the yellow kind of into there and let the yellow sort of blend in with the green. So they're going to flow into each other like that. Super easy. And then we're going to paint in, oh, I'm going to switch to my bigger brush again. Then we're going to paint in the leaf. So grab your green, and I'm going to paint the leaf in as I go, and then just kind of eyeball and leave a little white vein going up the center and kind of going out to each of the little edges of the leaf. So just kind of eyeballing where the vein might be in the leaf. I'm not sure what to call that. I guess it's called a vein. Would you guys call that anything else, like going into a leaf? It's probably called a vein, something like that. Okay, so I'm just kind of eyeballing where that vein might be. It doesn't have to be real perfect. Just giving it that shape that it needs. And then filling the rest in with green, just like that. Okay, so it's okay to let all the color kind of be muddy. If this was a big painting, we might want this to be smoother. But actually the beauty of watercolor is how it looks like it's just kind of flowing all over. And that's the really nice thing. So now I'm going to take a little bit more of the peak green. You can take it right out of your palette if you want to. I just happen to have it already in my palette. And I'm just going to touch the edges of this little leaf a little bit more, make it a little bit more green. And then the top of this branch that it's sitting on, just kind of giving it that. And now what I really want to do is portray that this is fall time. So I don't want this leaf to be, I really don't want it to be that green. So I'm going to take some of the chestnut color we made earlier and just touch the edge of this green that I've added and turn this leaf a little bit brown. I want it to kind of look like it's fall time, and then bring that brown all the way around, following where my vein was. I don't want to cover up the little veins. And I'm just kind of giving my leaf a second layer as I come around, just like that. Okay, so you see how that doesn't take away the green, but it adds a layer of color that's gonna say, okay, it's not summertime, it's fall. I actually want to add a little bit more red because I really feel like, I don't know if they really turned that red, but I want a little red in this painting. Another thing we're going to do throughout this Doodle-a-Day is something that I did last year, which is I limited my palette. When you're doing a collection of paintings, sometimes it's hard to make them look like they match unless you have some rules about what you're doing. And so for this collection of little doodles, I'm going to be real intentional to not use every single color in my palette. So I am going to limit my palette a little bit, and you'll notice as we go that'll just keep my painting really consistent, or at least my set of paintings, they'll start to look more consistent, and that'll really help. Okay, so see how I'm just adding color? You can just add red and brown and green and all that stuff. Make it kind of go around, and that will make your leaf look like it's fall time. The color is going to spread out. I have a little more water on my painting than I want, but it's such a small painting. I think it looks fine anyway, so I'm just going to go with that. Now we're going to add some layers to the acorns themselves. So coming back to this chestnut color, I'm going to mix up just a little bit more of it. Let's see if I can see any comments coming through. Oh, okay, so Pam says not playing for me right now. Is anybody else, am I frozen for anybody else, or is it not playing, or maybe it's on Pam's end? Bonnie says she's excited with her leaf. Oh, Pam says locked up. Okay, maybe it's frozen on Pam's end. Somebody else tell me if it's frozen, and then I'll know if there's anything wrong. Jackie says she has a big oak tree in her backyard and acorns and leaves on her grass all the time. That's so fun. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yes, I'm so glad that, oh, okay, Terry says it's good here and not frozen for Bonnie. Bonnie's excited. I got to show your little leaf emoji. Isn't that cute? I really want to paint, that's like a maple leaf, right? I really want to paint a maple leaf also. Leslie Ann says it's frozen for her a few times. Okay, so maybe there's just a little bit weirdness going on with the internet today. But hopefully it's clear. You guys can see the picture all right, and Pam says it's working now. Okay, that sounds good. Alrighty, coming back to the acorns themselves. So we're going to add some more layers. Basically, we're going to water down this, this really, really light chestnut color, and we're going to layer it. So we're going to start where the highlight was and come out from it a little bit and just put a layer of this chestnut color further out on the acorn. So basically we're coming out a little bit, leaving that lighter shade and giving it another little layer of color. And then we're going to do the same thing with the lighter yellow color. So grabbing that yellow, mixing it in with the chestnut we already have on the palette. And then we're just going to give it another layer, but only on the edges, so that we're basically creating little shadows here and there with our watercolors. And we're going to do quite a few layers. It's funny when you're doing a small painting, you think, oh, this will be, you know, like 1 or 2 layers of paint. But actually with watercolor, you can get away with doing quite a bit before you're like, whoa, that's too much. So you're just leaving highlights, light colored highlights near the white space that you left before, and then filling in the rest dark. So now while we're working on these little hats, I'm gonna come in a little darker, and I'm using brown and that chestnut color. Come in a little bit darker on the edges of the little hats and just touch it. Now this is wet and wet. We've done this before, and we're just darkening up these edges while it's wet so that they start to add deeper brown on those layers. And we're going to put a shadow between these 2 acorns, I think, just to kind of separate them a little bit. That's going to help them stay apart in our eyes. But another thing I want to do is add a shadow up here at the top of the hat where it's kind of curving up toward the branch. And we're still using that darker brown color. And that's to separate that little point that's connecting to the branch from the top of the acorn a little bit. And I need to grab a little bit more brown. So what I'm doing right now is adding very light colors. I should say very watered down colors, so that I don't end up with a super dark stem or something. Just be careful that your water isn't overwhelming the painting, which is easy to do when you're on a small painting. In other words, make sure there's enough pigment. And if you're having trouble with that, try, instead of adding water, you can add white paint. And sometimes that will lighten your color without watering down your colors too much. Now look here on my leaf. I had a lot of water on my leaf, and I like to point out things that are not exactly perfect when I'm on live, because I want you guys to know that everybody can still be growing and learning. And so sometimes my paintings are not turning out the way I want them. And actually, I think this looks great, but I just want to point out something to you so you know what's happening. So right here on this little oak leaf, it actually looks fine. It looks really great, and it has cool shading on the edges. But just notice that the inside of it is really light. And the reason for that is there was too much water on the leaf. While I was adding color, I had too much water and not enough pigment. So as it started to dry, basically you can think of water sitting on top of the paper like a little dome, and all the color sheds off toward the edges and settles on the edges and leaves white in the center. And that's what creates tide lines around the edges like that. And so this is just a big light space on the inside of the leaf because there was too much water and the pigment was sitting on top of the water and running down to the edges of that little puddle instead of sinking down in the middle and filling in the middle space. And so that's why that's that color. It actually looks great, looks fine. I might add a little bit more shading to it, but that's why it looks that way, and that's not my intention. I want it to be a little bit more filled in. So just FYI, that's why. It's mostly because there was so much water in a small space, and that's why it ran off to the edges. So if you're seeing that in your paintings, the way to fix that is to dry your brush off and just grab more pigment, dry it off and get more pigment. That's how you can fix that. Okay, coming in with more chestnut color. I'm gonna take this chestnut color and add a little bit more of it to the palette because I need some more. And I'm adding more brown to it so that it definitely is not red. I don't want the acorn to turn red. So here's the color we're getting to. Hopefully you guys can see that color well. And oh, Pam says it's still happening. Okay, I hope that you guys are able to see me. Only for a few seconds then. Okay, so we might be having some problems with the internet today. Sorry about that, guys. Hopefully, are you guys still able to follow along enough to where you can see the instructions enough? And then maybe we can fix the problem for tomorrow or before Monday's live again. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm adding another layer. So I'm backing up from that first shadow that I had, or first highlight layer that I had, and I'm adding yet another layer of brown. And I'm using my medium-sized brush right now and coming in all around the acorn, just like that. I'm gonna add another layer over here, coming out from that highlight as well. Really fun. I love to do layers like this. So now actually that highlight is actually a little bit too dramatic. So I'm gonna water down this chestnut to where it's almost not there, like where it's literally like water and a tiny bit of pigment. And I'm just gonna quickly glaze over that. Super, super light color. So just a real quick glaze of color. And look how that took the harshness of the shine off. And I'm gonna just do that over that little shine there too. So I still want the shine, but it was just a little bit too strong. So I basically just added a teeny tiny bit of color to it, and that really, really helped. Okay, coming in with a little bit more chestnut. See, we're adding layers and layers and layers, and what we're doing now is just giving it depth. And I'm gonna just kind of flick the color on. It doesn't have to be a solid sweep of color this time. I'm gonna come up underneath this little chestnut. I know, it's funny, I'm using the word chestnut, and this is an acorn. Anyway, it's funny. Coming up underneath the little hat of the acorn, and then coming up around the edges of the acorn, around the back. Using the word chestnut's making me want to sing a particular Christmas song, but I know there's some people who say we shouldn't sing Christmas songs off season. I actually am of the opinion that Christmas songs are so uplifting that I could listen to them anytime. Plus, if they're Christian hymns and things, they're just always true. So it's really fun. But it cracks me up when they're like, no, it's not allowed yet. So I'm just adding a little bit more, and I'm realizing I need to bring this highlight more to the right edge. But that's kind of getting to where we want it to be. So before this gets totally dry, I'm going to add a little bit more dark. And actually, I'm going to just grab some black and mix it into the brown we've been using. I want it to be pretty pigmented, but I still want it to, so really pigmented, not a lot of water. If you add too much water to black, it's just like see-through. So it doesn't really work for darkening a painting if that's what you're going for. So I'm taking that same chestnut color, mixing that up again, and I'm adding black to it. So here's the color we end up with. And I'm gonna just take, actually I'm gonna use my smallest brush, my smallest Liquitex liner brush, number 0. And I'm gonna come along the edges of this painting with this real dark brown, and that might be a little bit too dark. Let me grab a little bit more brown, a little bit more red, mix that in. Okay, and I'm just gonna use that to do some real dark shading. around the edges. It's amazing how much layers you can add. And it really does need it. It really helps. I'm going to put a little bit next to the little knob down here, some along this edge, kind of up underneath here, and just a few darker shadows kind of coming in the front there as well. And then we're going to do that as well up underneath this little hat. The shading under the little, I don't know what else to call it, but it looks like a little hat. The little shading underneath this little hat is going to be super helpful in making it look like it's coming up over the edge. So that's really critical there. So just make sure that's got a good shadow. And it'll also help you define the shape of it really well. I'm going to do even a little bit more over here. Look at that. Oh, look how cute that is. Oh my goodness, guys. Okay, when you step back and you look at your painting, you're like, whoa, I love it. It's so sweet. Okay, I'm going to come over here with this little knob and give it a little shadow as well. I love to paint small, you guys. I don't know if you remember last year me doing a lot of these. I know there's a bunch of ladies on here that did remember me doing a lot of those paintings, but I get a kick out of painting small. I don't know if it's just because it's so little and it's cute, but I just get a kick out of it. It's like a little child that you're making. It's so pretty. Okay, so I'm gonna paint this in with black up under here, and then I also am gonna carry that black shading. Remember, we always want to use our darkest colors throughout so that it's not like, what is that really weird dark shadow right there? So we're gonna carry that throughout, but first I wanna add a little bit, like I said, to this leaf because I did notice it's not exactly how I want it. I'm gonna go back and grab some of this green and just give it a good glaze so there's nice color on it so that there's not just this big white space in the center. And I'm using good pigmented color that's not too watery, and that's going to help that a lot. Bring that green over like this, and then just add a little bit of the red that we were just using, that chestnut color. When I say red, I mean chestnut. And just come up along the edge of that and create that shape a little bit better. I'm also going to kind of define the edge of this leaf just a little bit better because it is sort of watery around the edges. So you can use a smaller brush for that if you want to, but pushing that color out toward the edge will create a crisper line, and that'll just make that look a little bit more finished. All right, so while that's wet, I'm going to come over here and grab that dark brownish reddish chestnut color and use that on the leaf to add a little bit more depth. So I'm going to come up along even the center of the leaf, come up along the edge of the leaf there. Give that a little bit more going on. I want to come along the bottom edge of this branch. Give that a little bit more depth, the bottom edge of this branch. And then I'm also we'll water that down just a little bit so it's not so dark, and I'm going to use that on this little round part that's holding it onto the branch right there. Okay. We're not quite done because we have some texture to add. I'm going to add a little bit more shading to this leaf. As I'm adding this darker color, I'm really liking it, so I'm going to add just a little bit more to this leaf here and there, especially on the edges. That's going to help the edges look a little bit more done. Oh, look at that, you guys. Let me see what we've got going on in comments. Leslie Ann says she loves Christmas music and could listen to it all year long. And Pam says, hopefully replay will not stall. Excited. Oh, she's excited as well. That's great. Look at this on the, I don't know if you guys can tell, but on the camera, that's looking even way more brilliant than in person. Okay, so last but not least, we are going to add our texture to the top of the acorns, to that little hat area. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm just going to be real simple with it. I'm going to do just kind of hash marks, kind of like a hashtag, you know, like that. If there's a better word for that, tell me. I'm not sure what to say about that, but it's this way and then this way, okay? So we're gonna grab chestnut color, and I love that I'm live with you guys, because a lot of times when I'm like, I don't have a word for something, you're like, oh, that's called this, and that really helps me. I feel like I'm not by myself over here. Okay, so we're just gonna do this, like, whatever you call that, this kind of thing. So lines going this way diagonally and lines going this way. And it's going to be real faint. And I'm using, just so you know, I'm using brown. And you can either mix in yellow, or I even mixed in a little bit of red ochre. But basically, we're making it more tan. And yeah, adding the yellow will really help. So we're just going back to that same chestnut color, adding a little bit of yellow. And you want it to be pigmented, but not too dark. So you really don't want to see harsh lines. You just want to see that a faint hint of the texture. So add some water to it. Don't get it too watery. And we're just going to go diagonal. So we're going to go this way with it, sideways, and skip your little highlights. If you got some highlights going on, make sure you don't go over those if you left some white space like you wonderful people remember to do all the time. And then come this way with it, going the other direction. So there's some texture for us there. And then I'm using my smallest brush again. And now we're just going to go diagonal on this one. So, whoops, that's a little dark. So water that down a little, and then just coming across, just like we just did. So just see how light this brown is. It's like almost not even there. And skip your highlight. Make sure your highlight doesn't disappear while you're filling that in. And then I'm going to turn it again and go the other way. I am loving this so far. Oh man, I'm loving this so much. I am so loving this. I love this so much. Okay, you guys, check that out. Look at this doodle. A doodle-a-day, you guys. Are you ready for the rest of the doodle-a-day? I am so excited for today's doodle-a-day. Can you tell? Oh man. Crosshatch. Okay, crosshatch. Okay, so we're doing a crosshatch pattern. Let's see, Leslie Ann, what is that? Is that an acorn or is it a hazelnut? I can't actually tell. That's probably an acorn, isn't it? She just found an emoji. And it's called crosshatch, according to Shelly. Hi, Shelly. So let's put Shelly's comment up. So if nobody knows, it's apparently called crosshatch. You have a super cool icon on your name. It says Hello Fall. That's adorable. I love that. Shelly, tell us where you're watching from, and welcome, and thanks for being on for a doodle-a-day. I'm super excited. Oh, Leslie Ann says it was a chestnut. Okay. Yeah, I was like, it looks close. Yeah, chestnuts. Well, I almost sang it. Anyway, chestnuts roasting over an open fire. Okay. Here is a doodle-a-day. I am super thrilled with it. We are finished with our painting for today. If you loved that, please give it a big thumbs up and a heart, and share it with someone you think would enjoy it, because there's a whole bunch more to come. Tomorrow I will not be live because it's Sunday and I'll be at church, but I will be live every other day this month that is not a Sunday. So make sure that you are catching us live. There will be a tracer and either a video or a photo, I'm not sure yet, of a doodle for tomorrow. So if you want some inspiration for tomorrow, there still will be some. Maybe you can put it in your Bible journal or something like that. Shelly's from Minnesota. Hello from Minnesota, Shelly, and thank you so much for watching. That's awesome. So yeah, make sure that you're available at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 12:30 Central, and 1:30 p.m. Eastern, right here at Artworthy Life for an entire month of a doodle-a-day. Fall theme, autumn theme, and if you think of anything that you would like to doodle, leave it in the comments. I might cover it. We'll see. We'll see what I can do. I'll fit as many as I can that we can squeeze into this month. Alrighty, ladies, thank you so much for watching. God bless you, and I will see you then. Bye.